Most men talk too much and say nothing. They ramble, they chase, they try to impress, and women can smell the desperation from a mile away. But then there are the men who barely speak, yet command attention. They don't beg for respect, they naturally earn it. What's their secret? It's not about fancy words or pickup lines. It's about precision, knowing exactly what to say and when to say it. Today I'm breaking down 9 phrases older, wiser men use to attract women effortlessly, all grounded in the ruthless clarity of Stoicism. These aren't just words, they frame the way a man carries himself. Ignore them, and you'll keep playing the game on hard mode. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give a quick like if you're ready to level up your game in relationships using Stoicism. Every video is a step closer to mastering your mindset and creating deeper, more powerful connections with the women you meet. Let's get into it. My phrase 1, I only focus on what I can control. Let me tell you about Daniel. He was in his late 40s, divorced, rebuilding his life from the ground up. A lot of men in his position would be drowning in bitterness, stuck in the past, replaying their failures like a broken record. But Daniel, he was different. On a casual coffee date, the woman sitting across from him leaned in and asked, "Doesn't it frustrate you how things turned out?" Most men would take the bait. They'd start venting about their ex, their bad luck, or how women these days don't appreciate good men, but not Daniel. He didn't flinch, didn't get defensive. He simply took a sip of his coffee, looked her in the eye and said, "I only focus on what I can control." Boom. In that moment, the entire dynamic shifted, the tension dissolved, and suddenly Daniel wasn't just another man telling his sob story. He was someone different. Why? Because that one sentence communicated power. It told her everything she needed to know about him. He wasn't a victim. He wasn't bitter. He wasn't seeking validation. He was in control of his emotions, his mindset, his life. And here's the brutal truth. Women don't respect men who dwell on what they can't change. They don't want a man who blames the world, his past, or his ex for his problems. They want a man who owns his reality and keeps moving forward. This is the essence of Stoicism, not just controlling what you can, but embodying an unshakable presence where nothing, no rejection, no failure, no setback can break you. Because the man who is in control of himself controls the room, controls the energy, controls the attraction, and that is irresistible. Phrase 2, tell me more about that. Most guys completely misunderstand what it means to have a powerful presence in a conversation. They think it's about dominating the discussion, cracking jokes, or dropping impressive facts. But here's the brutal truth. Women don't just want to be listened to. They want to feel truly heard. And that's where 99% of men fail. They either interrupt to show off how much they know, zone out, nodding mindlessly while waiting for their turn to talk, or worse, jump in too quickly, ruining the natural flow of attraction. But Daniel, he played the game differently. Whenever he was on a date and the conversation took an interesting turn, whether she was sharing a childhood memory, a strong opinion, or even a complaint about her day, he didn't rush to respond. Instead, he leaned in slightly, held eye contact, and simply said, "Tell me more about that." Boom. Just like that, the dynamic changed. Sounds almost too simple, right? But it's like magic, because that one phrase does something most men never do. It signals genuine curiosity. It makes her feel like what she's saying actually matters. It pulls her deeper into the conversation, rather than making it a transactional back and forth. And when a woman feels seen and understood, she opens up. And when she opens up, a real connection starts to form. Not because you're a smooth talker, but because you create space for her to be drawn to you. This is deeply Stoic in nature. The strongest men in history, the warriors, emperors, and philosophers, never wasted words. They knew that the true mark of power isn't how much you speak, but how effectively you listen. Marcus Aurelius himself said, "It is the mark of a great man to listen rather than to talk over others." Most men chase attention. Smart men create gravity. They make others feel heard, respected, and drawn in without ever having to force it. And that's exactly what this phrase does. Phrase 3, I'm not afraid to walk away. There's something undeniably powerful about a man who knows his worth, a man who doesn't beg, doesn't plead, doesn't tolerate disrespect just for the sake of keeping a woman around. Most guys, though, they fail this test every single time. They bend over backward to impress. They laugh at jokes that aren't funny. They nod along to opinions they don't even agree with, all because they're terrified of losing the woman in front of them. And women can sense that weakness instantly. But Daniel, he was different. One night, he was out with a woman who clearly had options. Attractive, charismatic, the type who was used to men jumping through hoops for her. So she did what women like this always do. She tested him. She challenged his views, threw little jabs, pushed boundaries, subtly trying to see if he'd crack, if he'd start explaining himself or seeking her approval. Most guys would panic. They'd either get defensive or desperately try to win her over. But Daniel, he stayed calm, locked eyes with her, and simply said, I'm not afraid to walk away. And in that moment, everything shifted. Her whole demeanor changed. She smiled. She leaned in. The energy between them flipped completely. Why? Because Daniel did something most men are too weak to do. He refused to put her on a pedestal. See, true confidence isn't about proving yourself. It's about knowing your value so deeply that you don't need to. A man who's willing to walk away is dangerous. He's rare. He's magnetic because he doesn't chase validation. He doesn't cling to approval. He doesn't fear loss because he knows that his worth isn't determined by any one person. And this is where Stoicism separates the strong from the weak. Marcus Aurelius himself wrote, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. That's the Stoic mindset of a man who refuses to betray himself just to keep others around. A man like that, unshakable, unaffected by rejection, unafraid to walk away from anything that doesn't serve him. And ironically, that's exactly what makes women chase him. Ever wondered if a simple text could make a woman obsess over you? Sounds crazy, right? But there are certain messages, almost like magic words, that can slip into her mind and make her think about you nonstop. Even if she has a boyfriend or sees you as just a friend, these texts flip a switch in her brain and make her crave being around you. Warning, if you send this message, she might get so excited that she starts chasing you. So if you're not ready for that kind of attention, maybe skip this one. But if you are ready, you can grab these magnetic message templates right now. Just click the link in the first pinned comment below and grab your templates now. Phrase 4. This reminds me of something I learned recently. Older men attract women not just because of experience, but because of wisdom. Most guys don't get this. They think attraction is all about looks, money, or status. Sure, those things help, but the real game, it's about depth. It's about being the kind of man who sees the patterns in life, learns from them, and actually has something worth saying. Daniel understood this. Whenever he was in a conversation and something interesting came up, patience, ambition, resilience, he wouldn't just nod along like every other boring dude. Instead, he'd lean in slightly, hold eye contact, and say, This reminds me of something I learned recently. Then he'd drop a simple but profound insight like, patience isn't just about waiting, it's about how you wait. Boom. Suddenly, the energy shifted. She wasn't just talking anymore, she was paying attention. Because that one phrase does two powerful things. One, it shows that you actually think about life, that you don't just drift through existence, but reflect, analyze, and evolve. Two, it proves that you're always learning and growing. And women, especially high-value ones, are drawn to men who are constantly leveling up. See, most guys are mentally stagnant, trapped in the same mindset they had at 18. They talk about the same things, complain about the same problems, and never evolve. But a man who absorbs wisdom, refines his thinking, and applies it, that's rare. And women want to be around rare men. Because here's the harsh truth. A man who stops learning, stops leading. And a man who stops leading, he gets replaced. This is where Stoicism comes in. The great Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, all understood one thing. A man's power comes from his ability to adapt, to learn, and to see beyond the moment. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, a man's worth is no greater than the worth of his ambitions. In other words, if you're not growing, you're dying. So next time you're in a conversation, don't just react, lead. Drop an insight, share a lesson, prove that you are the kind of man who sees life as a constant evolution. Because the man who is always learning, he's the man who never stops winning. Phrase 5, I appreciate your perspective. Ever been in a conversation with a woman where things start getting heated? Maybe she challenges your beliefs. Maybe she throws in some passive-aggressive remark to see how you'll react. Most men screw this up. They either get defensive, raising their voice, arguing every little point, trying to win the debate, completely shut down, nodding along, backing off, and submitting like a weak little puppy. Both reactions are failures, because the moment a man lets his emotions take control, he loses. But Daniel, he played it differently. Whenever a woman disagreed with him or tested his frame, he'd stay calm, hold eye contact, and say, I appreciate your perspective. No tension, no defensiveness, no ego, just composure. And instantly, boom, the vibe shifted. Because this one phrase does something most men are too emotional to pull off. 1, it keeps the conversation open. Instead of shutting things down or escalating into an argument, it signals that you're willing to engage, but on your own terms. 2, it proves you're unfazed. A man who stays centered, no matter what, is a man who commands respect. 3, it shows emotional maturity, and trust me, women notice when a man has control over himself. Because here's the cold, hard truth. Women don't respect men who get rattled easily. If you can't handle a simple disagreement, how the hell are you going to handle life when real problems hit? This is exactly why Stoicism is the ultimate masculine philosophy. Marcus Aurelius once said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Translation: weak men let external things control them. Strong men remain unmoved. And nothing is more attractive than a man who cannot be shaken. So next time a woman disagrees with you, hold your frame. Stay calm. Look her in the eye and say, I appreciate your perspective. Then watch her respect for you skyrocket. Phrase 6, I've been thinking about. There's something about a man who thinks deeply, not just about random trivia or useless facts, but about life, purpose, and the brutal truths most people are too scared to face. That's what separates men who just exist from men who lead. And Daniel, he understood this on another level. Whenever he was in a conversation, whether with a woman, a friend, or even a total stranger, he had a habit of starting with, "I've been thinking about why some people find purpose so easily, while others struggle for years." Or, "I have been thinking about why so many people fear failure, when in reality failure is the only way to grow." And something amazing would happen every single time. She'd pause. She'd tilt her head slightly. Her expression would change. Because in that moment, she realized, this guy is different. He's not just another average man talking about the latest Netflix show, gossip, or some meaningless distraction. He's a thinker, a leader, someone with depth. And here's the cold truth. Women crave men who make them think. Not because they're looking for a philosopher, not because they need a lecture, but because a man who reflects on life, who actively questions, learns, and evolves is a man with direction. And nothing is more attractive than a man who knows where he's going. This is where Stoicism comes in. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, these men built their lives on one key principle. An unexamined life is a wasted one. Most men never think. They drift, they react. They exist in a cycle of distraction and indulgence. But a man who reflects, a man who challenges himself with deep questions, that's a man who stands above the rest. So next time you're in a conversation, don't just be another predictable guy. Drop a thought-provoking statement. Make her pause, because that's how you get inside her mind, and stay there. Phrase 7. That's not something I settle for. Confidence isn't just about how you walk, how you talk, or how you look. It's about the invisible force behind every decision you make. It's about your standards, the things you will and will not tolerate. Because here's the hard truth. A man without standards is a man without power. And women, they can sense that instantly. One time, Daniel was offered a job that didn't align with his goals. It paid well. It was stable. Most guys would have taken it without a second thought. But Daniel, he turned it down without hesitation. And when a woman asked him why, he simply shrugged and said, "That's not something I settle for." That one sentence hit different. Suddenly, she saw him in a new light. This wasn't just any man. This was a man with a mission, a man who knew what he wanted and refused to accept anything less. And that's magnetic. Most men live like beggars. They beg for attention. They beg for opportunities. They beg for relationships. And when life throws them scraps, they take them. But a man who refuses to settle, he sends a different message. I don't chase. I don't beg. I don't compromise my vision just to fit in. And that's exactly why he commands respect, admiration, and desire. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." In other words, what you accept is what you become. If you accept a mediocre job, you become a mediocre man. If you accept disrespect, you become a man who tolerates it. If you accept a relationship that drains you, you become weak. A Stoic understands this. Your standards shape your destiny. So next time life throws you something less than what you deserve, reject it. Because a man who doesn't settle, that's a man who wins. Remember, the link to get the templates is in the first pinned comment if you want to take this to the next level. Phrase 8. I find joy in the simple things. In a world that worships excess, there's something incredibly powerful about a man who knows how to appreciate simplicity. And here's the hard truth. Most men are caught up in the chase, chasing more money, chasing more status, chasing more validation. But deep down, they're empty. Because all they've ever known is more, but not better. Now, Daniel was different. One day, in a conversation with a woman, He said something that hit like a punch in the gut. I find joy in the simple things, like a quiet walk or a really good book or a walk where most guys would have said something like, I'm always grinding, always chasing success. But Daniel's words, they made her pause. Why? Because in a world of noise and constant striving for more, man who can appreciate the simple moments stands out like a diamond in the dirt. Men today are drowning in distractions. They're constantly told they need more money, more women, more thrills. And while they chase these illusions, they get lost in the noise. They forget what truly matters. But Daniel wasn't buying into that. He understood something the modern man often forgets. The greatest wealth isn't found in things, it's found in moments. It's in the peace of a quiet morning. It's in the focus of diving into a book. It's in the stillness of a walk at sunset. The man who can find joy in these moments, he's not just living, he's thriving. The Stoics weren't about indulgence. They were about contentment in the present. Seneca, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, said, "It is not the man who has little, but he who desires more, that is poor." A Stoic man understands that life's beauty doesn't come from accumulation, but from appreciation. The quiet moments, that's where true richness lies. And when you can appreciate them, you take back control. You see, a man who finds joy in the simple things isn't weak. He's intentionally living. He's immune to the hustle culture that keeps most men constantly dissatisfied. He's grounded in the present, not obsessed with the future. Women are drawn to men who don't need constant stimulation to feel alive. The man who's content with the basics, the quiet moments, he's the rare breed. So stop chasing, start appreciating. And remember, a man who finds joy in simplicity isn't just present in life, he's in control of it. Phrase 9. I live by my principles, not someone else's expectations. This one, it defines the real man. Forget fitting into society's mold. Most men are slaves to expectations, whether it's society, women, or peers. They seek approval instead of asserting their own worth. They live for others, but they're never truly satisfied. But Daniel, he lived by something stronger, his own principles. When he said, I live by my principles, not someone else's expectations, the woman across from him noticed immediately. Why? Because in that moment, he showed something most men are afraid to. He didn't need anyone's validation. Let's get real. Most men are weak because they bend to others. They bend for validation, for acceptance, to fit in. Stop bending. Stop trying to be what others want you to be. Find your own path. Real men, they live by their principles. They don't care if the world approves. They've already approved themselves. Marcus Aurelius taught the power of virtue and inner strength. A Stoic doesn't follow the crowd. He follows his own nature. When you live by your principles, you free yourself from society's chains. The opinions of others are none of my business. A Stoic man creates his own vision of success. He doesn't bend. He stands strong in his beliefs. In the manosphere, we talk about red pill authenticity, knowing who you are and standing by it no matter what anyone else thinks. A man who lives by his principles radiates confidence. He creates his own reality. He doesn't need external approval. That's the difference between a follower and a leader. Living by your principles isn't just about words. It's about creating your legacy. When you do this, you become the man others wish they could be. You've just learned how powerful the right words can be. But knowing them is just the first step. Using them at the right moment is what truly makes an impact. If you want to always have the perfect response, effortlessly creating attraction and intrigue, check out the link in the first pinned comment. Inside, you'll find ready-to-use message templates designed to make sure you're never overlooked in a conversation. Take the next step and start applying these phrases today. If this video made you think, even just for a second, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear this. And if you want more insights like this, subscribe. Let's keep uncovering the timeless wisdom that makes life and love worth living. Thanks for watching.